Hey Megan, how you doing?
Hello, and this is Coco.
Coco. Well, welcome
Yeah,
Megan, welcome Coco to Cardiff Heights Baptist Church.
yeah,
Did Coco want to get in on the action of an interview?
yeah. Coco thinks I get too much attention. Really, it's her time to shine. Although she's got her head buried in my elbow at the moment, so she's feeling a bit shy.
Like, partially wants to be there, partially not, but probably just wants to be with you.
Right.
Yeah. And I was just thinking before how we first met, which I think might have been in the Morlin Library. Is that correct? Or
So
the old Morlin Library now?
yeah, not that I've had much chance to see the new one with everything going on, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm pretty certain you might have joined what was the noisy corner of the library, but it was noisy before you came. So
I probably didn't help.
well, I don't remember you being too bad like at raising it. But anyway, it was fun. It was a pleasure to meet you then and to be able to have conversations with you in person. And it's been a joy to actually also hear some of your podcasts with Michael, but we'll get to that a little bit later. The first actual formal question that I have for you in advance of you coming virtually for our service on Sunday and doing this interview is, could you briefly share some of your journey as a disciple of Jesus, touching on how you came to faith and your calling as a pastor, and then perhaps more recent roles that God's called you to?
Yep. So I became a Christian at 7 years old. I was converted by a puppet, which that's what happens when you're 7, I think. My father is a minister. He's in semi-retirement now, although he's working as an interim pastor. And he was also at Morlin College as a lecturer. And so I grew up in a Christian home, but I also grew up thinking I never, ever want to be a minister. That's not for me. But it wasn't about, I wanted to be an actor or a writer, that kind of thing. And at about 18, when I was at uni, I first started hearing a call to ministry. And I just thought that I knew it was from God because I really, really, really did not want to become a minister and didn't think I was suited. But God's convincing. So over time, I was convinced, and I worked as an editor for a bit. And then I went into theological college. So this is of the late 1990s. And then I was a pastor for 17 years. But more recently, during that time, I also worked doing adjunct lecturing at Morlin. But more recently, I've been trying to juggle my PhD with an editor role again, being publishing manager at Australian College of Theology, which takes, I think, my theology and my academic experience and my publishing experience and brings it all together really nicely. And, then I've got a podcast.
Okay. So what, out of curiosity, is your PhD on?
It's on tensions within evangelicalism. So, just going to sort out all of that mess.
Very good. Very good. And more recently, you've been doing a podcast called With All Due Respect with Michael Jenson.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and what impact have you found that's had on you and Michael, and perhaps on your audience as well?
Yeah, so it was a joke on my part, actually. So Michael and I were Facebook friends. We didn't know each other that well. And we'd spent 2 days in a row arguing with each other on Facebook. And after the second day, I was feeling a bit bad about it. So I was trying to diffuse the situation, and we normally got on reasonably well, so despite some differences. So I said, gosh, you and I get on quite well considering all of this. We could do a theology podcast, and this will show our age, a la Margaret and David from the movie show. So your older congregation members will get that. And that was a complete throwaway line, relational diffusing on my part, did not intend it. But about 2 weeks later, Michael got in touch with me and said, so let's do it. I'm like, let's do what? Yeah, so he took it more seriously. But I think, like, once we thought about it, it did bring together actually some of what I'm looking at in my doctorate. And it's something both of us concerned about, that both the church and society are quite polarized. And we really wanted to see that you could be loving and you could be respectful, but you could still talk about difficult things, and that would be honouring to God and would be good for society as well. So, you know, just a small goal. Yeah, so we started, so it took us a few months of prepping, but we started the podcast, I think the first one was September 2018. So it's been going for over a year and a half. What has it meant for us? I think we've realised that you can't do something like this without changing each other and without influencing each other, and that's a good thing. You know, I think a lot of people thought it was just going to be nice but debate the whole time, but actually a lot of what we're doing is looking for common ground, and we do influence each other. Like, we do come away and go, oh, that was a good point, I hadn't thought about that, and we have sort of changed our minds on things. And then in the middle of all of that, we started a Facebook group to see whether some of what we were trying to do in the podcast we could kind of do more broadly, to encourage, you know, you normally see on Facebook debates that don't go so well. So we had an idea that if we had a group, we could provide a space where that could be done better. And yeah, that actually good for us and our thesis about what would happen, that has happened. So there's over 1,000 people in that Facebook group, and it has become a place where people feel able to talk things over without getting jumped on. And it's got Christians from all denominations. It's even got, you know, agnostics and a couple of atheists and people from other religion in there who are just interested in the project. And then just this last week, actually, we decided this is becoming really big. And maybe this is something God wants us to have more of a project with, and develop this kind of understanding. So yeah, we've just called it the Water Project, with all due respect project, and gone online with it.
Okay, very good, very good. I'm very happy to be part of that 1,000 as well. That it's been, I think, a great addition to the podcast, and a great chance to actually model it. And it's funny, something good can come from a Facebook argument, apparently.
There you go.
No, who would have?
Something better comes out of things that aren't arguments, but actually shows, you know what, that there's grace and humility go a long way, and you can learn. Yeah.
Yeah. No, very good, very good. And earlier this year, you wrote a devotional series for the Bible Society called "Women of the Bible You Need to Meet."
Yes.
What prompted you to do that, and what's been the response to that?
Yeah, actually, I wrote it pre-COVID, interestingly, but it came out in May. Well, there's tiny little mentions of COVID there, but it hadn't really taken off. Actually, what happened was, so Bible Society own Eternity, who I do the podcast for, and they approached me and said, could you do a series over Mother's Day? And look, as a female preacher, I could preach sort of 10 times every Mother's Day like that. So I was a little bit, oh, okay. So I said, can I come back to you with a series that I think will be able to incorporate that, but might be more generally interesting? So I came back to them and said, look, I think there's a lot of women either that in the Bible that either people don't even know about, or they kind of know about, but the story they've been told isn't really quite what you see in the Bible. So I wanted to sort of give people a taster and send them back to have a look at a lot of those women that they're in the Bible. They're often given quite a significant part in the Bible, but just the way that we read the Bible hasn't brought them out. So yeah, it's been a really, really positive response, actually. I tried to write in a way where I wasn't sort of towing any particular line, but just really encouraging people to go and, one, to meet those women, but also to see that it's not just telling us stuff about women, but that those women tell us stuff about God and about ourselves more generally, that just like any of the other characters in the Bible.
Okay. Very good. Very good. And I know it certainly had an impact on some people in our church. I included it as a link around in our bulletin, church bulletin, around Mother's Day. And some people picked up on that and then let me know about the impact. And out of kind of the impact that it had, small group, I think, well, small that I knew about at church, it's kind of prompted us to look at doing this as a series. So hopefully we'll have up to 14 of these, but over an extended period. So we'll come back to it rather than doing 14 weeks of it. But so it's kind of a between series. So I'm really thankful that you've been able to say yes to being able to start us on this series. So you this week will be looking at Deborah. Is there something in particular about Deborah? I know Deborah is going to be a great tie-in for us, having just finished a series on Ruth and being in that time around the judges. But is there something about Deborah in particular? If you don't spoil the sermon.
No spoilers. Well, I've got to go in a second and get my husband's birthday cake out of the oven anyway. So, look, I actually think Deborah is one of those ones where we all feel we know who Deborah is, but do we really? So I really like the challenge of that. I think there could be an easy win with doing a sermon about someone that you'd all never heard of, but to talk about someone that we feel like we know the story of, but I really don't think that we've looked at it in detail. And so to have a chance to tell her story again in a way that really brings out, I think, stuff to the glory of God. That was why I chose Deborah.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you. And so we'll hear from you later in the service with our online service, and then in our Unconventional Evening Gathering, we will see you again, so people get a chance to interact with you face to face in that time. So looking forward.
That'd be lovely. I may or may not have a cat. I could have the other cat. I don't know. The other one's much bigger.
Depend on whether the cat wants to or not, right?
That's right. Completely up to the cats. Completely up to them. Yeah.
That's right. Church with pets. Anyway, thank you, Megan. Looking forward to it.
Right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.